So today I'm going to talk about the number one thing that is preventing you from transforming your life, whether that's healing your body or healing another area of your life, relationships, finances, maybe mental health stuff. And that reason is because you do not know what your emotional identity is. And that is really good news, because once you know what it is, you can easily drop it, just like you take off your clothes right before you get in the shower. You can take it off, and I'm going to explain that to you. So the universe is a hologram, and if your life isn't changing, it's because you haven't changed. So it's really important to just admit that, like, if nothing is changing, then you want to know what inside you hasn't changed. When we ask the right question, our awareness is directed to the answer. Okay, universe, okay, well, not much has changed in my life, so what is it that needs to change in me? Do you live in constant doubt? What if I told you that living in constant doubt could potentially give you vestibular migraines or a pituitary tumor? You know, people that have health crisis wake up because they know that it's not worth it to hold on to a grudge, or it's not worth it to stay angry or to watch the news and fight with people about politics all day long. They know that it's not worth it. They know intuitively, whether they know the laws of the universe or not, many of them know that it's not healthy for them to continue to focus in a way to hold on to emotions that lower their immunity. So my prayer for you is that you don't need to wait until you get a wake-up call like that to let something go, to let go of your emotional identity. And if you do, just like I have, I've been in a couple hairy situations with my health, and you know what? I don't judge myself. It's like I just want to know the truth, right? I want to know the truth. What is it in me that needs to change? So first, you have to ask the right question, and you have to want to know the truth. You have to want to know the truth. We live in a society where, you know, we have karma, right? We have like the emotional identity that we are supposed to transform in our life, whether it's arrogance, chronic sadness, whether it's being in that range of like guilt and shame and pride, which is, you know, something that keeps us stuck in addictions. We have what's actually in us, and then we have society telling us to hide that from ourselves because we need to be good boys and girls. We need to be presentable and lovable and not hysterical. So we might have some pretty intense rage in us, but society tells us to pretend that we don't. And so it might come out in a physical symptom, or it might come out just as like a really, really judgmental mind, right? Being angry all the time doesn't necessarily look like, you know, throwing glass and flipping people off, you know, when you're in traffic. It could be just like being really judgmental and harsh towards yourself and towards other people. You know, someone that has an emotional identity of anger, right? An emotional identity is something that you don't feel like it's yourself if you don't have this emotion. So like, even if no one's in your life, if you have an emotional identity of anger, you'll fight with fictional people in your life, fictional versions of people, theoretical people. You will replay arguments just to feel that emotion. And we walk through life thinking this is normal. And I mean, it is normal. It's our human condition, but it's the reason why, it's the undetected identity that is the reason why things aren't changing. So, you know, I've worked with a lot of people who deal with infidelity. Maybe they have a spouse that has what they call a sex addiction. And I tell my clients, your spouse is not addicted to sex, they're addicted to shame. They're not addicted to food, they're addicted to guilt. When I was dealing with an eating disorder, the emotional cycle for me was I felt overwhelmed, So then I would binge, then I would purge in some way, over exercising, purging in other ways. And then I would feel ashamed of myself, and then I would feel despair because I felt like a complete loser for having this issue for so long. And when it dawned on me that the problem is the emotional cycle, it's not the behavior, I started to feel so much love for myself when I was in these states, when I was in despair, when I was in shame, when I was, the behavior hadn't changed yet, but my conditions started to heal the day I decided to love myself instead of hate myself. And you know what? I had an eating disorder for like 13 years. And after I healed from it, I remember hearing somebody say the word anorexia and bulimia. Someone was talking about an eating disorder, like at an event that I was at. And I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. I completely forgot those words. Bulimia? Oh yeah, I remember that. I had that for over a decade. But it was like I completely forgot even the word because I was a completely different person. So you have to first identify the cycle that you're in, that's cycling every day. And, whatever is happening in your life, the way that you react to it emotionally is a huge clue as to what you're stuck in. I talked about unworthiness, about what it looks like to be stuck in an emotional identity of unworthiness, because that's a little bit more subtle. But, it looks like self-depreciation. It looks like everything you look at in the screen reminds you that you're not good enough because your identity is that you're not good enough. So you're just seeing that everywhere. You're seeing it in the mirror. You're seeing it in your phone. You're seeing it on your social media. You're seeing it in your family. You're seeing it when your parents ask you how your life is going. That's how you react. Just be honest and real about how you're reacting. And that's your emotional identity. That's your emotional identity. Don't you want to know this crucial information? Not enough people want to know. Instead, they just want to appear a certain way. They want to be approved of instead of knowing the truth. And that's the biggest thing. The biggest 99.9999% or maybe 100% of the work of changing your life is awareness. It's just awareness. When I'm aware that my whole life, that I've constellated a network around shame, guilt, despair, and unworthiness, and I actually see it, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I know that I'm greater than this. I see the damage that this is doing. I'm done. I'm done. It just, when you see it clearly, and when you decide, right, again, when you have a health crisis, it's pretty easy to throw away the payoffs. A lot of people create illness because they want attention. A lot of people, I remember when I was in the hospital with cancer, I remember, this was in 2012 before I ever consciously did shadow work. I remember thinking to myself, my dad is a really busy guy and he's a wonderful man, but I was in the hospital on my birthday for 2 weeks during a cancer surgery recovery, and he visited me for a total of like 5 minutes. And he was really busy, and he knew that I would be okay, and he didn't do anything wrong, but like that triggered me so much. And I was like, I remember when I was like hooked up to all these like tubes like in the hospital, I remember thinking like, okay, Alex, well, this attempt at getting your parents to love you differently didn't work. I was trying to get attention. And I literally decided in a moment, I was like, well, we're not doing this anymore. This has gone way too far. So it's easy when you have a crisis to drop the payoff, but I'm asking you to analyze, right, the payoff that you think you're getting by being judgmental all day long. It's not going to be a payoff anymore when you start to get liver problems. Being anxious all day is not going to be okay anymore once you have kidney failure. Don't make it or allow it to get to that level. you are, if you have a situation that's evoking fear, for example, like maybe you're dealing with a medical diagnosis and you don't like going to the hospital, you don't like your doctor's appointments, you could, if you realize that, first of all, this emotional identity of fear, the way you're reacting in the situation is the energy that created that situation. So if I'm always afraid at these doctor's appointments, it's probably this fear that created my medical condition in the first place. So if I really want to heal, I could thank the doctors for wanting to take care of me. I don't have to listen to everything they say. I don't have to do what they tell me to do. I could be grateful for the nurses. I could be grateful for the fact that there are hospitals. I could be grateful for the fact that I have medical insurance. I could be grateful. We could think hundreds of thoughts that align us with who we really are, with gratitude, with appreciation, and not with our emotional identity, but we zero in on the thing that reinforces that emotional identity that's based in fear and lack and despair and all these other things. So you could be in a situation that traditionally you've reacted to with fear or despair. Like, for example, if you're single and you want a partner and you want a family and you feel like your time is running out and this is causing you to feel despair, well, despair is part of your emotional identity, okay? So instead of feeling despair, you could be grateful that you're alive. You could feel loved right now. You could feel loved. I decide to tune into the feeling that I'm loved, which you can do just by wanting to do it. I don't want to hang on to this despair. I don't want to be a victim to this situation. I don't want it to escalate to some other cosmic 2x4. So I choose to be in this situation that I'm in and be at peace with it. And going further than that, like, if it's love that you want, tune into the feeling of love. If it's abundance that you want, appreciate what you have. Appreciate everything you have. There's so many things probably in your home, in your life, on the clothes that you're wearing. There's so many things that you can look at and feel gracious about. And I highly recommend that you do, because then you will change. Then you will change and your world has to change. But you already got the reward because you freed yourself. So I hope this was illuminating in some way, and I hope you have a beautiful day.